right, now that we have a quorum, we can call the Plattewoods Board of Alderman meeting for May 11, 2023 to order. In front of everyone is the agenda and the minutes from the April 15th meeting. There are extra copies if people in the audience need them. Jessica will all take care of it. Okay. So I'll give everyone a few minutes to go over that, and then I'll ask for a motion to approve the council agenda and April 6th.
From my perspective, I would say that the meeting minutes are not complete.
From what perspective?
From my perspective of our conversation and the things of which we discussed, the meeting minutes are not complete.
I know, Jessica, there are guidelines on minutes, so I would assume that we captured it.
Yeah.
We don't have to do verbatim minutes because these.
That you should portray the conversation and the sentiment of the meeting. That's all I'll state for now. As Tom just pointed out to me, both times when he was here and when I was here, the meeting minutes have noted no public participation.
It says none under the public participation.
The top is formal public participation where someone schedules in advance. Any public participation after, at the close of the meeting, that's just captured in the meeting's
Well, my participation wasn't after the close of the meeting, that.
What I mean is
Okay.
after item 2 on the agenda.
You would need to contact us before the agenda is published to have it formally made part of the meeting.
Okay, good to know.
I think it's referenced to the committee reports and children's remarks section under.
Yeah, I see that, and I also see that the conversation is planted that all of the concerns that were noted and the objections to some of the statements that were made are not on there. I still object that the other locations that had water problems aside from us, you said we flooded because of not having a beehive, and that is not why we flooded. The other location that flooded, I'm told, also has a beehive that didn't keep them from flooding. But you said that it did.
Well, I'd like to get the minutes approved on the agenda. We can have this discussion.
Okay, well, I'd like it on record that I don't agree with last month's minutes.
I'd like it on record that flooding is defined a certain way. Water retention, which is the way it is designed, is different.
Oh, this was not designed.
We have photographs within certain time frames
Yeah,
of
we sure do.
flooding going down, so.
No, we don't. It did not go down.
Talking about the beehive areas.
So you think it's acceptable that someone's yard is flooded like a river as long as it goes down in a couple of hours? That's acceptable to you? That'd be acceptable to you in your yard?
If that's what the current guidelines for construction
That's
are.
absurd.
I don't write the federal laws.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
Okay,
Federal laws.
let's agree to disagree and move on then. Next topic, I don't agree with the meeting minutes. Oh, no, she's considering.
Not worried about her.
Oh,
Your phone,
it's her paper tail, I'm thinking.
that's not big enough to worry about. I don't know if you know the breed too, but.
To approve the agenda in the 4 minutes with the alteration mentioned by the public.
I so move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. All opposed? Hearing none. Agenda is approved as written and the minutes are approved with the comment from the public as captured. With that, we have no full public participation. We will move to police and court activity. Chief?
You have the calls for service in front of you. There was a decrease in alarm calls. If you recall, last month, we did have one house that had 3 or 4 alarms too. That was resolved, brought that down. We didn't have any alarm calls this past month. The disturbance call we had was in the commercial district, and our miscellaneous information calls that are, a lot of times it may be just somebody come in and tell us about something. A lot of times it may be a referral to a different agency, and those were down as well. The crimes against property were in the commercial district, and there was, I believe, 2 of them involved failure to return on rental cars and enterprise. So that happens frequently. Then I'll report a little bit on the 72nd Bridge. Obviously, it's a real difficult situation for everybody, our residents and everybody traversing through. It's particularly difficult for our officers to get from one side to the other. So they may spend 30 minutes. In fact, there was one instance that was 45 minutes for us to get from one side to the other side, just in normal traffic, and it was during rush hour. So that makes it very, very difficult for us to get through. John and I both spoke with MoDOT the other day, trying to come up with some resolution. Excuse me. Originally, they said that we were going to have a path through to get through there. During this most recent time, they were demoing the bridge. We understand that we're not going to be able to get underneath there. Now they've taken that roadway completely out, and so without us four-wheeling through the mud, that's not much of an option either. So when I talked to the contractor today, I asked several different options. Number one is 72nd Street northbound and southbound ever gonna be open to the public? It sounds like probably not. The problem is that 72nd Street southbound entrance ramp, it dumps right out into a lane of traffic. There's not a merged lane. So that sounds like that's off the table. We even talked to them about allowing the officers to go through, and that's probably not even going to happen unless we're in an emergency situation. And I have some concerns about that because we've got to travel on the shoulder of the road, over the grass, and it's probably just not going to happen. So tomorrow, we're trying to get a meeting set up with the on-site foreman and look at what options there may or may not be for that. So it's going to be a lot more difficult than we had hoped for, was told by MoDOT, and the reality of that right now. So I had an emergency call today, and it took double the length of time for the normal response time. Normal response time would be where I had to go would have been 3 to 4 minutes, and it was almost 12 minutes. So, you know, in Kansas City or some of the larger metro areas, that's an acceptable response time. For us, that's not what we're used to having to deal with. So, a lot of times we may be the first response on a medical call or something like that, and that's why it's important for us. So other departments may not run medical calls, and you know, especially in a heart condition or something, we do carry AEDs, so that's something that we want to be mindful for. I put that out to MoDOT, expressing a concern about that for public safety, additional risk for our officers if we are having to travel through 64th Street, especially. Trying to run emergency through there it's a nightmare, and just it's a risk that we wish not to have to deal with. So we'll continue to have those talks with MoDOT and with the contractor to see what we can get done. Also, I had a discussion with Sheriff Owen last week, and he just wanted to relate to us that, as well as with all communications departments in the metro area, there's a real shortage of dispatchers, and he simply has asked for our patience and understanding because of the workload. Not only do they have 4 channels that they operate on: fire, EMS, north and south for law enforcement. They have TAC channels, they have detective channels, and they also, all the overflow into the county courthouse flows to the communications center. So they're down quite a few communications officers at this point, and they're trying to do some different things to upgrade that. And Clay County just put out an ad last couple of weeks that they're paying $55,000 a year for a dispatcher, and they can't find them either. I understand that they're even down proportionally less than Platte County. So just kind of FYI for everybody, just to understand that, and that's the completion of my report.
We will move on to the court. Yes, ma'am, please.
I went ahead and had the court clerk go back and do March to recall last month. It was crazy that day, council day, so we didn't get the numbers out. So for March, it looks like there were a total of 170 cases filed, 54 were disposed of, with total revenues of $5,934. Again, as we discussed before, that number encompasses all revenues, not necessarily what the city's